Welcome aboard the BESETO Express. We'll cover 3 countries: Beijing in China, Sei, Seoul in Korea, and Tokyo in Japan. Together we'll explore the culture of BESETO. All aboard the BESETO Express!
Characters shaped by a nation's history and environment are reflected in its food. However, there is something common among all the different and various types of foods. It's that they all have their own sauce to make them taste better. BESETO countries have their own sauces too, and they are similar. They are soy sauces. Soy sauces of China still being made in homes and factories. Soy sauce of Japan made mostly in factories. Soy sauces of Korea, where there is even a special village dedicated to making soy sauce. Well, let's start our journey to taste the soy sauces of the BESETO countries.
Wow, what a feast. Incredible. I couldn't eat another bite. It's spicy, rich, and incredibly delicious. And with this little bit of red pepper paste I mixed in here, incredibly hot too. Wow. But really, without jang, you can't have good Korean cuisine. Why don't we have a look at the basis of this great Korean culinary tradition, jang? We have gochujang, doenjang, and kanjang. Today, we're going to learn the authentic secrets of Korean cuisine. Let's go.
The main ingredient of soy sauce is none other than the soybean. Soy sauce means all flavoring sauce made by fermenting soybeans. Where is the place of origin of the soybean? It's said to be the land of Koreans' ancestors, Manchuria, and the Korean peninsula. Korea's ancestors were nomadic people of Northeast Asia. They first came to Manchuria and then the Korean peninsula to find a good environment for grazing cattle. But because of the characteristic of climate in Manchuria and the Korean peninsula, they could no longer continue their nomadic life, which made them search for an alternate source of protein. Having discovered the soybean, they found out it was quite a useful vegetable and started farming it. This way, they could regain the strength they had by eating meat by taking in soybean instead. What nutrients compose the soybean? Uncooked soybean was not digestible, however. Soon, they taught themselves ways to store soybeans using tools, and in that process, they found out that soybeans ferment. That was the start of soy sauce we see today. The Korean people started farming soybeans in the 10th century BC. With the start of this revolution, they first started making soy sauce at the 4th century BC, and it became widely known around the 2nd century BC. Ever since, it has become the most important source of eating culture of the Korean people. The Chinese people started farming soybeans around the 7th century BC, and Korean soy sauce was spread to China during the 2nd century AD. After tasting Korean soy sauce, they sweetened it by adding wheat, localizing soy sauce in China. The Japanese started farming soybeans in the 5th century BC, and Korean soy sauce came to Japan around the 7th century AD. Soy sauce was originally made with only soybeans, but after rice became abundant, they started mixing soybeans and rice to make a very unique type of soy sauce.
Wow, I never realized there were so many various stories about the insignificant little soybean. What's also interesting to note is that the soybean's home is right here in Korea. Why don't we have a look today and see how the soybean and what processes it has to go through to become delicious, nutritional, and tasty, Jang?
In order to make soy sauce, you need meiju. First, you soak the soybean in water for about 8 hours and then boil it until it turns brown. Then, you mash the boiled soybean and make it into a squared shape. After shaping the meiju, you dry the outside of it in the sun, and then you hang it in a warm place to let it gather mold. As days go by, molds start to appear on the outside of the meiju. You tie it with straw and dry it in the sun all winter. Now, let's find out the unique character of Korean meiju.
Korean meiju is made by mashing cooked soybean into cake and then grown with Aspergillus oryzae mold on the outside, and inside bacteria grows. Mainly Bacillus subtilis species grows inside.
Bacillus subtilis bacteria has a strong enzyme that dissolves protein, which makes the unique smell and taste of Korea's soy sauce. The Aspergillus mold that builds on the outside makes the meiju more nutritious. As such, Korean soy sauces use naturally developing fermenting bacteria. If you want to make Korean soy sauce, kanjang, you first rinse salt in water once to remove the bitter taste of salt, and then let it sit for a day to get rid of impurities. Then, you put the meiju into the salt water. You put in red pepper for sterilization and wood charcoal to take away the smell as well. As you let it sit, the water does turn black. This is kanjang, and it gets more nutritious and its taste gets richer the longer you leave it, just like wine. Korean bean paste, doenjang, is made by the meiju that was used to make kanjang. You take out the meiju from the kanjang and mash it. Then, you add a little kanjang and salt to add flavor, and that's doenjang. Doenjang differs from region to region. Makjang is made by grinding meiju that has not been used for making kanjang and mixing it with salt water. Bamjang is a soy sauce made by grinding kanjang meiju and fermenting it with salt water. Garujang is soy sauce made by mixing meiju powder with barley powder. And finally, bagejang is a soy sauce made by kneading meiju powder with bean boiled water and adding paprika and salt. The first record of soy sauce in Korean history can be found in the Sam국sagi. When you see the record from 683 AD, it says that soy sauce is among the bride's dowry, which shows that from long ago, soy sauce was an important food to the Korean people. Also, an ancient Chinese document records that soy sauce was made in Manchuria, the region the Korean ancestors used to live. Now, let's find out about Japan's modern soy sauce. What's unique about Japanese soy sauce is that it's produced in mass quantity in modernized factories. The kanjang of Japan is called soyu. Soyu is made by mixing not only soybeans, but also wheat and adding fermenting bacteria artificially, namely yeast. After you mix soybeans with barley, it does not go through the meiju process, but it's made right into a powder and kept in a big storage tank. The added yeast ferments the soyu. During this process, the biochemistry activity of microorganisms becomes active. Soyu made by this process is put into bottles and used in homes. How is the Japanese tenjang, miso, made? To make miso, you first boil soybeans and freeze them in low temperatures without making it into meiju. Then, you mash the cooled down soybean and add water and yeast. After fermenting the mixture for about 3 to 6 months, miso is the result. Now, let's find out what's unique about miso.
長期熟成味噌で味と香りが非常に優れていると。それで非常に最近はがんに効くということで抑制されるということで非常に人気の高い商品でございます。
How is soy sauce made in China? All houses make soy sauce at home, so jars full of soy sauce can always be found somewhere. Soy sauces that taste especially good can find themselves in local markets. Let's find out more about Chinese soy sauce.
Chinese soy sauce is produced from individual soybean meiju. Soybean meiju is made from individual soybean grain. It is not mashed. It is not made into cake.
You can find factories making soy sauces in large cities in China. Here, soy sauce is made by grinding the soybeans, different from soy sauces made at home where you don't grind the soybean. Instead of boiling and grinding the soybean to make meiju, it is put right into a sack or jar and then fermented. What is most important in making soy sauce?
容易在前期发酵当中产生一个杂菌的污染，杂菌污染以后呢，就造成这些个营养成分，什么蛋白质啊、淀粉呢，被杂菌消耗掉，然后做出来的酱是没有风味儿，没有这个酱香、汁香味儿，只是一种咸味儿。
There's a famous Korean saying that goes, even the mountains and the rivers change every 10 years. I think it means that everything has to change over time. Well, I'm curious then to see how jang, with its history of many thousands of years, has changed from then until now. Why don't we go and have a look?
It's easy to find stores selling soy sauce in Japan. You can see how widespread and popular soy sauce is when you see such specialized shops. You can see the significance of soy sauce to the modern Japanese people by seeing that there are numerous dishes made with soy sauce. This is miso nabe, made by adding oysters to soup made by miso. This dish made by boiling oyster with red miso is one of the most popular dishes using soy sauce. Miso shiru is a simple soup made by boiling miso with water. It is a must for most Japanese meals. Natto, which is fermented soybean, and sama no misoni, which is mackerel flavored with soy sauce, are also important dishes made with soy sauce. As such, soy sauce plays a big role in Japanese food culture. How is soy sauce in China changing? The soy sauce itself is not changing, but more dishes using soy sauce are being developed. The number of factories mass-producing soy sauce is increasing, and soy sauce pickled vegetables are especially getting popular. So, if you visit a food factory, it's not hard to find vegetables being produced with soy sauce. This is the most famous food store in China. Famous for its tasty and clean foods, it has an array of soy sauce dishes, and the dishes made with soy sauce are among the most popular.
有20多种呢，像那个八宝菜、酱黄瓜、酱甘露、酱黑菜等。像这八宝菜、酱黄瓜卖比较快。
What exactly does Korean soy sauce look like? We went on a journey to find out about it. This is the first place that comes to mind when we think of Korean soy sauce. The government, which has taken special interest in soy sauce, had the soy sauce complex built here. This is the place that sells traditional soy sauces made in traditional houses. Here, soy sauce is made through modern equipment. It made soy sauce making easier and faster, but the process itself still follows the traditional method. There's no difference between the traditional and the modern when it comes to the nutrition and taste of soy sauce. Korean soy sauce has been used as not only food but also as medicine since a long time ago. The folk method of applying ganjang on burns and doenjang on cuts or wounds are such examples. It may sound funny, but there is a reason this is done.
그 고서에 된장, 장 자체가 화독, 열독을 제거하는 그런 효능이 있다고 기재가 되어 있습니다. 그리고 이런 독뿐만이 아니고 음식독이나 여러 가지 약의 독, 그리고 생선이나 그런 야채의 독까지도 해독하는 그런 효능이 있습니다.
Constant research is being done to study the scientific effects of Korean soy sauce. People have started to realize the infinite possibilities of soy sauce. A recent study showed Korean soy sauce to be effective in curing cancer. This is an active cancer cell, but when an extract of Korean doenjang was applied, you can see that the stronger the concentration, more cancer cells started to disappear. Also, a study proves that Korean traditional doenjang has greater medical effects than the modernized doenjang made by artificially adding fermenting bacteria.
For a soybean to be transformed into a delicious and tasty dish, it must go through many different processes. Although traces of the bean may not be found in the dish itself, its nutritional value and its taste still remain the same. Don't you kind of think that the jang and the soybean in general, and its quiet and yet important role it plays in most foods, is kind of like that of the diligent Korean people? The effects may not be seen on the outside, but on the inside, the quality is there. Well, that's all the time we have for BESETO Express today. So until next time, I'm Jeff Krause. See you again. Bye-bye.
What significance does the invention of soy sauce have?
The way of cooking soybean, they found at that time, I think it's kind of industrial revolution at the Stone Age people.
Soy sauce. It's not just a type of food, but the driving power that developed the Northeast Asian cultures.